Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howl. Been a while since we've been talking about on-ice production by the Coyotes, but these past 10 games, obviously much better in terms of results than games 50 to 60. They're 5-5 in their past 10 games, still just about 26th in the league. So in that lottery sort of standing. And it's been honestly the perfect definition of a mixed bag of results. You can't really describe it anything better than that. Some games they look like just what they were in the 14-game losing streak. Those two Chicago losses, very embarrassing, just something out of you wanted the Coyotes to take over those games. Two losses against Minnesota, the loss against Dallas recently, all 5 games, losses to teams in their division. Doesn't bode well for me. I would like the Coyotes to play better against teams in their division for future matchups, obviously starting next season. Their wins coming off 2 from Detroit, 1 from New Jersey, 1 from Washington, which was game 61, and just last night against Seattle. Yes, I've been watching all these games. You don't know what type of Coyotes team you're going to get. Are you going to get a stoic, structured, defensive-minded Coyotes team that gets goals based off the rush from defending well, or are you going to get a mishap in the defensive zone? They don't know who to cover. So many clear grade A chances given to the opposition. The goalie's not standing on his head. So you don't know what you're going to get as a Coyotes fan. What is interesting is that most of these stats stayed the exact same from the 60-game progress report, which tells me like nothing really dramatically changed from the 14-game losing streak. So you can say it's the quality of opponents the Coyotes are facing. You could also say it was just pure luck that they lost 14 games in a row. I don't like that side of the argument. But if you look at the quality of opponents in that 14-game losing streak, the only bad team they faced was Montreal. Yes, they had 1 game against Nashville and Minnesota, who at the time weren't clear playoff contenders. And then you look at today and you're like, yeah, Nashville just went on a 16-game point streak. They turned and unlocked another gear probably around the time where the Coyotes faced them. And then Minnesota's still battling to the very end to try and get a wild card spot. So really only one bad team they faced in Montreal, which they did lose that game. But yeah, goals for per game stayed the same. Goals against per game stayed pretty much the same. Power play pretty much stayed the same as well, hovering around top 10 power play. They only have 5 power play goals in the past 10 games, whereas they've allowed 11 power play goals in the past 10 games, including 4 power play goals in 1 game against Chicago. A very embarrassing outing there. The penalty killing is down to 26th in the league. I remember near the start of the season, maybe the first 30 games, their penalty kill was doing pretty good and was slowly improving, and then it just dove off a cliff, and now we're back to just having a brutal penalty kill system. Save percentage stayed the same at 89.7, good for league average goaltending at 89.7. Shooting percentage stayed the exact same. It is the first time ever I've had stats stay the exact same. Good for 10th in the league. Shots on goal per game, they're not dead last in the league anymore. It's been slowly increasing, 27.32 shots per game. Face-offs, dead last. Ever since Turney took over, face-offs have just been miserable. Definitely do miss Hayden, who just got injured again. He's one of our best face-off guys, and no one's really taking up the mantle in terms of face-offs. And hits per game, 22.13 hits per game. Good for 13th in the league. Let's get to individual stats. These past 10 games are led by 10 players. 2 of them not on this board because they haven't played the full season. Well, one of them hasn't. Cooley has. But yeah, Keller and Schmaltz have been playing unbelievable the past 10 games. Keller had a minor injury, so he missed game 61 here, but Schmaltz has 13 points in his past 10 games. Since the trade deadline, he's been on fire, which bodes well for me since he's trying to increase his trade value. Again, I solely don't want to trade Schmaltz, but I know there needs to be a shakeup, and I think Schmaltz could be a player that holds the most value, and we could get a current NHL player back in for Schmaltz that makes the team better. For Schmaltz, like, I like him. He's just a bit inconsistent, and he could just be a trade piece we need that's appetizing enough for another team to make that swap where maybe both players excel. Maybe the player we get back is better than what he was on his former team, and Schmaltz goes to another team, and that's a missing piece that team needs to be a true contender. Again, I don't hate Schmaltz. I just think, he plays well, a bit inconsistent, maybe disappears. He's a great complementary player to Keller, but to take that next step, maybe there needs to be some other casualties. Maccelli, well, let's go back to players who are doing well the past 10 games. The two players not here are Cooley and Gunther. Gunther's got 8 points in the past 10 games. He's riding a 4-game point streak. The Gunslinger, one of the best nicknames Tyson Nash has come up with, even though it's a bit rare. The Russian Bear nickname for Labushkin, the Dancing Bear for Luke Shen, but the Gunslinger, incredible stuff by Tyson Nash. I'm loving Gunther. I think the past 10 games, me and everyone else are just like, let's see what Cooley and Gunther do, and they don't disappoint. Cooley as well. He's got 5 points in the past 10 games, but still, even though it's a bit lower than Gunther, I think them two on the same line with Krause, just a great line. There's so much confidence in Gunther and Cooley, and they play penalty kill as well. They're usually there on the penalty kill to last 40 seconds or so. So great to see that they're still learning, getting more comfortable. Gunther with that overtime winner last night, great to see. Really excited for Gunther moving forward. And honestly, if I do dabble in getting another jersey that has a player name, Gunther might be there. I'm just loving his progress. I love that he's taken that next step compared to last season where those 33 games, I was very underwhelmed with him. But now just meeting expectations and meshing well with another young franchise player in Cooley. So that is only going to continue to grow. And then we go to people who are kind of not pulling their own weight. Krause, Maccelli, Dursey, McBain. Once I read off these numbers, they're like mind-blowing. So Maccelli, 3 points in 10 games. Like I said in a video recently, the Coyotes only really have 2 lines going right now, which is a top line in Keller, Schmaltz, Bukestad, and then Cooley, Gunther, and Krause, even though Krause isn't scoring. We'll get to that later. But Maccelli, since being separated from Bukestad and Krause, he can't really drive that line. He needs help, but there's no one to help him. I think he's playing on the line with Leonard and McBain or Carconi sometimes. Just he needs more skill and needs more time to build chemistry for the type of style he plays, but he has been quiet. Krause, 2 points in the past 10 games, even though he's playing on a great line with Cooley and Gunther. He only has 1 goal in the past 23 games played. Just Krause can't be that guy. He's a top 6 winger, and he needs to convert, and 1 goal in 23 games, unacceptable, along with Dursey, who has 2 points in the past 10 games, but 1 goal in the past 28 games. He is our offensive defenseman. He is leading our blue line to be that offensive guy. And to only have 1 goal in 28 games, just completely unacceptable. Such a drop off from the pairing we had last season in Chychrun and Gostisbehere. We really don't have any offensive defensemen. There's no offense coming from the defensemen. Moser has 5 goals on the season. Same with Kesselring. I think Valimaki has 2 goals. So no one on the blue line is chipping in on the offense. And I don't even know who in our prospect pipeline is going to be that offensive-minded defenseman, puck-moving defenseman. Obviously not on the same skill level, but like a Cale Makar or just that bona fide number 1 defenseman. For me, like Lamoureux, Simishev, Langlois, Zuber, to me right now, they seem like they're going to be very good, structured, stoic defensemen who keep the puck out. We'll see what kind of offensive flair they have, but I don't know who else in their pipeline is that true number 1 offensive defenseman who is just offensively minded and takes the load off the forward group to score goals. Maybe the upcoming draft, we find a guy between, spots 5 and 8 that could be that true number 1 offensive defenseman. And then McBain, 1 goal in 35 games played. I literally wrote that down literally wrote that down while watching the Seattle game last night, and he did score, but it was called back for a kicking motion, which I totally disagreed with. As long as the blade's on the ice, I think the goal should count. Let's go to goalies. Still a mixed bag. Ingram was 2 wins, 3 losses, 1 shutout. He is literally like either on or totally off. Those Chicago games, Ingram did not look good at all. Tried to keep them in that Dallas game, but then was just overpowered by Dallas. If anything, Vejmelka has been playing really well, I would say, the past 5 to 7 games, even though he has 3 wins and 2 losses in the past 5 games for him. 4 out of those 5 games, he had a save percentage above 920. So his best stretch of hockey this season. I wish it came way earlier in the season instead of like the last 15 games of the season. But Vejmelka has been outplayed Ingram, which is rare to say this season. So yeah, I mean, we're kind of just waiting for the season to end, seeing what happens with this auction. No auction date has been publicly posted yet, but all the speculation is pointing to the auction date being in June. I think when we watch these Coyote games, the next 12 games, we're looking to see how Cooley and Guenther evolve. Keller, it's a shame that he's probably going to get capped out at 70 points, a step back from last season where he had 86 points and tied the franchise record for most points in a single season. Great to see Schmaltz playing better. Unfortunate to see Hayden get injured, but I think we're just waiting to move on from this season, see what type of moves Bill Armstrong makes in the offseason, because he's going to make a lot of moves just to shake up this group, and he's going to have a whole new defensive core because no defensemen are signed for next season. So I'm excited for that. And he's got to fix, a lot of parts in the forward group, especially down in the lineup, to take the load off our skilled guys in Keller, Schmaltz, Cooley, and Guenther. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.